Welcome to another edition of the Kilted Homesteader. Today we're going to be doing a quick review on the one-ton hoist that we were able to buy from Harbor Freight a few years ago. And also as part of the review, I'm going to be talking about my Poormans trolley that I made up there and explain why I decided to build it the way I did and the purposes it serves in our workshop. So we purchased this chain hoist from Harbor Freight a few years ago, and it has come in very handy and very useful around the workshop. I can tell you that many people will, talk down about Harbor Freight and say a lot of their stuff isn't really good, but I can tell you they do have some things that work really well around the workshop, and they serve a really good purpose. This is one of those items that I'm really happy with, and happy with how it turned out, happy how it's able to be used. And what it is they're one-ton chain hoist, and it has a 10-foot lift according to their specifications. And I made a small modification to this on my own. It has a 10-foot lift, and I think this is about 8 foot high to the top of this beam. And one thing I had to modify was the actual lift chain right here. This chain here, when I hung it up into place, it would go all the way and it would pile up on the floor down below. And when you would try to jack it up or pull the chain, sometimes it would get caught on things on the floor, and it would be a real pain in the neck. So what I decided to do was I shortened the chain. So I cut the link, and then I was able to tack weld the link back to another link back together to shorten the chain. Now I would not, I repeat, not recommend doing that to the lifting side of the chain. All this was the part of the chain that you're using to pick the item up and down. So heaven forbid that link were to break, nothing would happen. This item would still stay up, put up in the air. Anybody knows these type of chain hoists know that all the work is being done. The heaviness is being done on this side and the lifting point. This here is just the leverage that you're going to have pulling the chain to raise or lower the item. So that's why I shortened the chain. I wasn't worried about the length on the lifting chain, but I was worried about the length on the working chain that you kind of pull up to go up and down with the lift. So that's why I changed and shortened that chain up, so it was a lot more user convenient for me, and it didn't get caught up in equipment that was on the floor. So one thing I did was, in my shop, shop was already built when I came here, so I didn't build this from the ground up, or obviously I would have done things differently. One thing, if it was my shop and I was building it, I would have had an I-beam placed across the top here to run a trolley back and forth with the chain hoist so you can get things out of the way. Like I said, that was not the case. That was not available. It didn't have that availability of having that done in my shop without a lot of expensive work. So what I decided to do is I took 3 2x6s and joined them all together with lag screws along the whole the whole beam. And then I used this as a base for my hoist. Now, I'm not saying you could pick up 1 ton with those 2x6s. My goal was no more than 1,000 pounds, because typically things I work with weigh a lot less than that. I can tell you now, I picked up 700 or 800 pounds with no problem. Didn't hear any clicking or popping going on. Nothing looked like it was being stressed out. But when it comes to doing this type, what I did, you need to talk with some experts and see if the span that you're using will work out okay. I know for my situation it worked out okay. I don't want to assume liability for your shop if something goes wrong. So talk to experts, find out what you need to if you're going to do something similar to this. Also, I wanted the ability to move this hoist back and forth. So I made up a trolley on this because I didn't have an I-beam here. I couldn't buy one of those trolleys that they sell and attach to it. So I made what I call a Poormans trolley. And all it is this is 3/8 inch thick steel, and it's 2 inches wide. And I drilled holes in the bottom of both of them and the top of both of them. And then through it, I have a 1/2 inch bolt going through with nylocks on the ends, because you obviously don't want to draw it tight. You want this to be able to slide back and forth across the beam. At least that was my goal for it. And then I was going to do bushings, make bushings for the top and the bottom, or for rollers for it to roll back and forth. But there was kind of like unevenness with the beam, and it was there were some variables to it. So I got to thinking, you know what, I bet you stacks of washers would really work good in this application. I know it may look cheesy, but I'm gonna tell you right now, this setup really works well. Does it roll as good and easy as a regular I-beam trolley? No, it does not. But I have had heavy parts on here, and I've been able to roll them off to the side and get them on the workbench. Also, I'm able to roll the chain out of the way so it's not hanging in the middle of my workshop when I'm done using it. So I'm really happy with how this design worked out. I'm really tickled to death with this Harbor Frieght 1-ton trolley. It has worked really well for me. I have lifted countless items that I can't think of, all the items that I've lifted with it over the years. In fact, one thing that it really came in handy, removing the top cover on my Ford 8N tractor. When you put that on, it's kind of a two-man operation, lowering it into position, and then inside, anybody that's worked on an N series know there's a lever that has to get dropped in and one fitting at the bottom of the tractor. And so you got to have one person guiding while the other person's lowering it down. I'll tell you how handy this worked. I had my 10-year-old son raising and lowering the top cover so I could get that joint into place. And the top cover probably weighs about 150 pounds, so it's not easy to do. But he and I were able to do it by ourselves, me guiding in there and him just going a little bits at a time up and down as I needed to get that piece into place. So this trolley, or not trolley, well, the trolley and the chain hoist, in my opinion, has paid for itself time and time again around the workshop. And again, this is one item from Harbor Frieght that I really appreciate and really do like, and definitely would give it, I would definitely give it 5 stars. If I had to give a review, a star review out of 5 stars, I would give it 5 stars. So I just wanted to share this little tool that we use around the workshop, give a quick review for Harbor Frieght, show you my Poormans trolley. Again, it works better than just having a chain around the rafters because you can roll it back and forth. Again, it doesn't roll as good as an I-beam one, but it does still roll pretty good. So thank you for tuning in to another edition of Kilted Homesteader. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I encourage you also to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. We do reviews and also work around the workshop and also around the home and garden. And also, please hit the notification button to be notified of new videos when they come out. Thank you again for tuning in to another edition of the Kilted Homesteader.